Mark's surprise singing at Lucy and Jack's wedding astonished guests, bringing tears to Lucy's eyes. The celebration deepened connections, marking Mark's sense of belonging. The night ended with gratitude, highlighting the power of love and friendship. Mark, reflecting under the stars, recognized the profound impact of heartfelt gestures and expressing love. A homeless man went to her wedding, and as he took a microphone, a beautiful thing happened. The act of helping those in need is a lovely thing. However, Lucy really elevated it. She had become acquainted with Mark, a homeless man, over the years. To the dismay of her friends and family, she even invited him to her wedding. They had no idea, though, that Mark was preparing the surprise of a lifetime. Being of service to others can be fulfilling. It can make both the giver and the recipient feel happy and fulfilled. Paying it forward is a wonderful way to express gratitude for the kindness of others and may also be a terrific method to forge stronger bonds with others and enhance communities. Buying someone a cup of coffee or assisting a neighbor with their shopping might be considered simple acts of kindness. It can also be a wonderful opportunity to express our thanks for all of life's blessings. We can improve the lives of those in need by using our resources to assist them. It can be a potent way for us to express our love and sympathy for other people. Assisting others can also be a fantastic way to develop and learn. It can impart understanding and empathy in us. It can also aid in our increased awareness of other people's needs and ways in which we might assist them. Nothing could have prepared Lucy and her fiancé for what was in store for them on their wedding day. However, what was Mark going to do at the nuptials? Why had he concealed things from Lucy? Why was Lucy so taken aback? Everyone was looked after. Lucy had always been drawn to serving the underprivileged, and the problem of homelessness was one of her most passionate issues. She would go above and above to ensure that the homeless people in her neighborhood were taken care of, and she frequently helped at the neighborhood shelter. Along with bringing them food, clothing, and other essentials, she would converse with them and hear their tales. Despite their trying circumstances, Lucy was constantly in awe of how strong and resilient they were. In addition, she worked with the shelter to assist people who were homeless in finding permanent accommodation. She would give them the required paperwork and assist them in completing applications. Along with helping the shelter regain stability, she also worked with them to offer career training and other opportunities. In order to assist spread awareness of homelessness in her neighborhood, Lucy also organized fundraisers and other activities in collaboration with the shelter. She was committed to dispelling the stigma that frequently surrounded the problem and educating others about it because she was aware of the difficulties. She understood how difficult the fight could be because she herself didn't come from a wealthy background. Lucy once noticed a man sitting on the pavement as she was making her way home from work. Lucy approached him without thinking twice and asked if he needed assistance. He was carrying a sign that said, "Homeless and hungry." She wished him luck and gave him the cash she had in her pocket. Lucy developed a tender spot in her heart for people in need after that. She began working at a nearby homeless shelter because she wanted to help as many people as she could. She also started giving money and her time to several charities. She was committed to improving the lot of the least fortunate people in the world. Lucy's altruistic deeds of kindness spread like wildfire, inspiring everyone in her path. She was a wonderful illustration of what it meant to be a kind and considerate person. Lucy's deeds demonstrated how even the tiniest acts of kindness may have a profound impact on someone's life. She was a genuine humanitarian, and future generations will benefit from her charitable legacy. Lucy served as a reminder that everyone has the ability to change the world for the better. Mark, the male, looked up at her and accepted her offer with appreciative eyes. In 2 days, he had not eaten, he told her. Lucy was devastated by this. He obviously needed more to survive, yet all he responded when asked if he needed anything extra was a blanket. Lucy was resolved to assist him. She returned to the shelter and got him a blanket, some food, and some clothes. When she went back to the same location, Mark was still there. He thanked her profusely as she handed him the things, and Lucy immediately felt a connection with him. He consented when she asked whether he would want to accompany her back to the shelter. Lucy presented Mark to the staff and other volunteers at the shelter. All of them extended a warm greeting and promised to assist him in any way they could. Lucy took great pride in her work and the impact she was having on Mark's life. Mark inquired if there was any way he could help at the shelter because he was so appreciative of the assistance he had received. Lucy thanked him for his offer and said he could assist with the everyday tasks. Mark put up a lot of effort and soon established himself as a useful team player. He was an excellent listener and always ready to offer assistance. Close companions. He had been fighting for his life on the streets for a few months. Lucy and Mark grew good friends over time. They would often spend hours talking while she brought him food and drink. Mark was a kind and compassionate guy, and Lucy found herself drawn to him despite his difficulties. Whether someone is homeless or not, Lucy felt that everyone should have the opportunity to experience true friendship. She was committed to helping Mark rebuild his life. She assisted him in finding employment and offered him a place to stay. She also put him in touch with neighborhood services to assist in his recovery. Mark was able to locate housing and get back on his feet with her assistance. Over time, Lucy and Mark's friendship became closer. Together, they would frequently go for walks and converse about their lives. Lucy was always willing to listen and give guidance. She was asked to. She recognized him as a person with hopes and dreams, just like everyone else, not simply as a homeless man. Lucy had been waiting for her boyfriend Jack to propose to her for years, and finally, one day, it happened. Jack had taken her to a romantic location with a view of the city skyline, going all out for the proposal. He had even brought a bottle of champagne and a bouquet of her favorite flowers. Getting down on his knee, he proposed to her. Lucy accepted the proposal, and they had a passionate embrace. Lucy will never forget that moment. Jack had given it a lot of thought and work, and it was a very sentimental gesture. To show her how much he cared, he had even composed a poem for her. They enjoyed a romantic meal and a night of dancing to commemorate the proposal. As they discussed plans for their wedding, they raised a toast to their future together. To begin their lives as husband and wife, they were both ecstatic. She was ecstatic and eager to tell Mark the news. A genuine friendship. Upon learning of her engagement, Mark was ecstatic for her. He declared, "You deserve every happiness in the world." Lucy sensed that Mark was genuinely thrilled for her as they hugged. He saw past her appearance and didn't think she had it better than he did. Rather, he perceived Lucy for her true nature. He was truly thrilled for her and considered her a friend. They had been friends for many years, and over that period, their bond had only gotten stronger. Together, they had experienced a great deal, and they had always supported one another. Lucy was appreciative of Mark's assistance because she understood that he was a sincere friend. He was always available to listen to her problems and to offer guidance. He was the type of buddy that supported her unconditionally. He was the kind of friend that would be there for her no matter what, encouraging her when she needed it most. Their bond served as an example of the strength of genuine friendship. Together, they had experienced a great deal, and they had always supported one another. Throughout their lives, they had supported each other through their highs and lows. Arranging the wedding. Lucy and Jack knew they wanted to do something unique for Mark when they started to arrange their wedding. Not only did they want him to be a guest on their big day, but they also wanted him to have a significant role in the ceremony. Lucy was fully aware of how to accomplish it. They made the decision to include Mark in the wedding party because they wanted him to feel valued and included. They desired for him to be able to take part in the happiness of the day and to have pleasant recollections of the wedding. Lucy and Jack showed great consideration for Mark's emotions around the impending nuptials. They wanted to make sure he felt included and valued since they knew he would love to be there. They made care to involve him in every aspect of the wedding preparation and talked about how to ensure he was a part of the wedding party. To ensure that Mark was as thrilled as they were, they also made sure to keep him informed about all the wedding-related details. A unique endeavor, they even questioned him for his thoughts on some of the choices they had to make. Thus, Lucy and Jack asked Mark to officiate at their wedding in the weeks preceding it. Mark was taken aback. "Me," he uttered those words. "Are you certain?" Jack and Lucy nodded and grinned. "We're certain," Lucy replied. Mark exclaimed, "You've grown to be such a significant part of our lives, and we can't think of anyone better to marry us." It had never occurred to him to be asked to perform such a unique task. He was thrilled to be able to contribute in such a significant way and felt honored to be a part of their special day. He pledged to do everything in his power to make it ideal. Since he had never conducted a wedding before, he was also a little anxious. However, he was committed to creating a stunning and unforgettable celebration. He was excited to make sure he was ready for the big day and to find out more about the procedure. As Lucy and Jack planned their wedding, he was excited about the chance to get to know them even more. Taking his role extremely seriously, he was confident that it would be a day they would never forget. A lump started to grow in Mark's throat. He never imagined becoming a part of something so wonderful. He responded, "I would be honored." Mark repeatedly practiced his lines leading up to the wedding day to ensure he knew them by heart. His goal was to do well enough to satisfy Lucy and Jack. He looked at methods to make the ceremony interesting and distinctive. He educated himself on the various customs that might be incorporated and the background of marriage. He also searched for poetry and readings that can be incorporated to give it a unique feel. Mark also inquired about suggestions and counsel from other officiants. In order to give the couple the greatest experience possible, he wanted to make sure he was doing everything right. He spent time practicing his delivery as well. On that day, he wanted to be certain that he could talk with confidence and clarity. To ensure he could conduct the ceremony in a way that was memorable and meaningful, he rehearsed in front of a mirror and with friends. A hidden aspect of him. But Lucy and Jack had no idea that Mark was going to do something really unique for their wedding. He felt that their wedding day would be the ideal occasion to reveal to them the one aspect of his life that he had not yet revealed to them. But some preparation was required for his surprise. He wanted to guarantee that it would live in their memory forever. Mark felt incredibly appreciative to have Jack and Lucy in his life. He wanted to do something special for them because they had supported him through good times and bad. He had been thinking of ways to express his gratitude and appreciation for their friendship for a long time. He had spent days planning and contemplating. He wanted to make sure they would feel cherished and special when they received his surprise. He was careful to make sure his surprise would leave them feeling valued and remembered. When the big day finally came, Mark was ecstatic to be able to accomplish something truly unique for Lucy and Jack. The days before the wedding passed so quickly, and before Mark realized it, the big day had come. Mark was gonna stay at a neighboring hotel, and Lucy had hired a tux for him. She ensured that Mark feel comfortable in front of so many strangers. She even brought a thank you present for him for presiding over the ceremony. Lucy was incredibly considerate of Mark's needs, even on her own wedding day. She made sure Mark had a ride to the site and everything he needed to conduct the ceremony on the morning of the wedding. She had taken the time to see to it that he had all he needed to carry out his responsibilities and was comfortable. To express her gratitude for his efforts, she had even planned a unique gift. Jack's turn, she even made him a special breakfast to savor before the ceremony. He waited for Jack and Lucy to walk down the aisle in front of everyone. Jack had the first turn. He stood next to Mark and shook his hand with assurance. 3 of Lucy's closest friends, the bridesmaids, arrived after Jack. Mark felt quite self-conscious as they stood next to each other whispering to each other. He was nervous and uncomfortable at the wedding, even though he had been so pleased to be a part of it. He began to feel as though no one was talking to him directly and that he didn't belong. He made an effort to dismiss the sensation, but it was difficult to block out the murmurs. He was so embarrassed that he wanted to hide and flee because he thought he was being judged and that he didn't measure up. Though he made an effort to concentrate on the joyful pair, he couldn't help but sense criticism. He thought he was falling short when measured against the other groomsmen. He felt so uneasy that all he wanted was for the ceremony to end. When Lucy eventually made her way down the aisle and the ceremony got underway, he felt relieved. Though he was pleased for the pair, he couldn't help but feel that Mark was passing judgment on him. He felt the eyes of all of them scorching suddenly. They all fixed their gazes on him, with a few even whispering to their seatmate. Mark couldn't shake the feeling that they were evaluating him. His hands began to perspire, and he felt terror growing. He needed to leave that place as soon as possible. The words and looks around him made him feel as though he were being choked. His pulse was pounding, and he thought he would pass out. All of the people in the room seemed to be observing and evaluating him, and he had the impression that he was unworthy. He had the impression that he was falling short of everyone else in the room when it came to comparisons. He believed that his looks, his attire, and his demeanor were being scrutinized. He believed that his conversational skills and IQ were being evaluated. I could take it no longer. He felt as though everyone was criticizing every thought he had and that he was falling short of expectations. Mark abruptly bolted up the aisle and out of the room. Lucy was minutes away from walking down the aisle when he nearly ran into her as he was leaving the room. She asked Mark what was going on, astonished to see him moving around. Mark just kept going because he was too scared to explain. Lucy didn't understand why Mark was evading the wedding he was meant to perform. Though Lucy didn't want to draw hasty judgments, she instantly knew what might have happened. She had also observed that people had been viewing Mark differently lately. She'd seen how the bride and groom had been treating him, and she'd heard some of the guests muttering about him. She sensed something wasn't quite right, and she thought it might be related to Mark's decision to flee the wedding. She was beginning to piece things together, and she suspected it had something to do with how he had been treated by others. She was beginning to see more clearly now what might have happened, and why Mark was fleeing. She was beginning to comprehend his nervousness and his inability to provide an explanation for the situation, disregarding their feedback. Lucy had worried that this would occur. She was aware that her parents didn't agree with their choice, but she didn't give a damn. It was her day, and she would include Mark if she so desired. She therefore made every effort to soothe him and advised him to stop giving a damn about what other people thought. She was determined to make sure that Mark was a part of her wedding day, and she was not going to allow anyone stop her. She knew that no matter what, she and Mark would be delighted with the outcome. She felt sure that her guests would accept Mark as the officiant and eventually come to understand her decision. Regaining his place, she was confident that at the conclusion of the event, everyone would be pleased and appreciative of her choice. Mark became composed and realized Lucy was correct. His own problems had nearly brought her beautiful day to an end. He wanted his surprise to be spectacular now. He gathered himself and strode back to his place, gazing directly ahead and keeping his head held high. He was determined to pull off the greatest surprise of all time. He was going to ensure that Lucy's faith in him was not misplaced and that the newlyweds will remember this day for the rest of their lives. He was determined to overcome his fears and prove to her that he was capable of accomplishing great things. He was going to do everything in his power to give the newlyweds an even more memorable day. "We chose you for a reason," he would ensure that he could make Lucy proud. He gave Jack a brief explanation of everything. Jack gave him a shoulder touch, acknowledging that he was worried. "Dude, you got this. Lucy adores you so much." He gave Mark a reassuring smile and stated, "We chose you for a reason." Never before has Mark experienced such love from anyone. He was incredibly appreciative of Jack's sympathy and encouragement. After inhaling deeply, he apologized for nearly postponing the wedding. "It's okay, Jack. I know how important this day is for you and Lucy." Jack grinned. "You're just nervous, I know that. Everybody gets cold feet from time to time." Mark nodded and continued, "I appreciate your understanding. I know you will make sure this wedding goes off without a hitch, and I'll do my best to make sure it does." Jack nodded. "Thanks, Jack. You're a great friend and an even better officiant." Mark grinned. "No problem," Jack grinned and replied, "I genuinely appreciate that." Proving everyone incorrect, Mark nodded and said, "You got it." He then left the room after taking a long breath. "Now let's get this show on the road." Taking a deep breath, he reminded himself of his plan. He felt ready to disprove the opinions of everyone who had ever treated him poorly. He was certain that later, everyone would have a different opinion of him because he was more than simply a defenseless homeless man. He was grateful to have people who put their faith in him and believed in him. He was resolved to make today successful and to disprove everyone's negative perceptions of him. He was determined to make this day unique for Jack and Lucy. He was resolved to make today successful and to prove to them that he was capable of accomplishing great things. Walking down the aisle, he was driven to prove to everyone that he was capable of greatness and to make Jack and Lucy proud. It was Lucy's turn to walk down the aisle at last. Everyone could sense the love in the air, and she looked stunning in her wedding gown. As Lucy joyfully walked towards him, Jack lost control of his emotions and started crying. It was an exquisite moment that Mark will not soon forget. The guests sent up a cheer and began applauding as Lucy walked down the aisle. Her grace and beauty left them all speechless. Overwhelmed by the intensity of the event, a few attendees even started crying. The ring bearer and flower girls were giddy with anticipation, and the bridesmaids and groomsmen were all glowing with happiness. Everyone was ecstatic and full of admiration for the stunning bride. Officiating the wedding in an electrifying setting with a crowd brimming with love and affection for the couple. Hi everyone. We're here today to honor Jack and Lucy's dedication and love, Mark said. All eyes were on Mark, but this time he couldn't care less. As their dear friend, it's an honor for me to stand before them as they embark on this beautiful journey together. His comments were loud and clear, and he spoke with pride and confidence. He looked at Lucy and Jack and saw their pride in their eyes as he spoke, which gave him even more confidence. He had changed into this powerful presence in front of them and could feel the power of his words. His words held the attention of the guests as he carried on speaking with passion. Watching the couple take vows gave him a sense of success, and he was happy to have been a part of this memorable occasion. A day full of love. Mark then spoke about his first encounter with Lucy, saying, "Today is a day filled with love, joy, and celebration, and I want to express how much Jack and Lucy mean to all of us." He couldn't express how much he appreciated her, as he had no idea how their friendship would develop. As Lucy listened to his encouraging words, a tear started to fall down her cheek. Knowing how much love and support they had on this wonderful day made her feel overwhelmed. It was obvious that their family and friends were there to celebrate their union and wish them a lifetime of happiness. Lucy was thankful for the affection that was all around them and was reminded of the value of having a solid support network. Knowing that she and Jack had such a solid base of love and friendship to build their marriage on as they exchanged vows made her happy. Mark couldn't help but smile throughout Lucy and Jack's vow exchange. He felt honored to be a part of their special day because they were so in love. Mark was happy for his buddies and became more excited when he realized that his surprise was going to happen. It was a lovely sight to observe as he watched them exchange vows as husband and wife. It was quite sweet the way they laughed together, held each other tight, and gazed into each other's eyes. Everyone in attendance could sense that Lucy and Jack were meant to be together, and it was truly lovely to witness. Any couple is delighted on their wedding day, but those who are truly in love have an even more wonderful day. Mark was thrilled for them and glad to call them his friends. Observing the couple's gaze, their mutual laughter, and their vow sharing is a breathtaking experience. They will always cherish the moment when they exchange rings, give each other their first kiss as husband and wife, and dance together. A flurry of activity. But as the ceremony was about to conclude, there was an unexpected disturbance close to the altar. As it happened, the rings were gone. The guests became agitated, and Jack and Lucy appeared perplexed while the maid of honor and best man hurriedly looked for the rings. This was undoubtedly a significant wedding accessory, therefore its disappearance caused a lot of inconvenience. The guests were shocked, and some of them were even whispering among themselves as the best man and maid of honor frantically searched every nook and crevice for the rings, leaving the guests in suspense. Jack and Lucy had worried expressions on their faces and were obviously under stress. They were terrified that the rings might have been lost because they had no idea where they could have disappeared to. There was a noticeable sense of anxiety in the air, despite the best man and maid of honor's best efforts to remain composed. All of them were expecting that the rings would turn up shortly so that the ceremony could be finished. This could unduly tarnish his astonishment. A beat skipped in Mark's heart. He'd made sure his surprise would happen right after the rings were exchanged, and now it looked like his moment could be lost. He stood there, a mixture of worry and fear. He didn't want to let his pals down and wanted everything to go well for them. In an attempt to locate the missing rings, he began to search the area where he had been standing as officiant. He began searching the ground for any hint of the rings because he was desperate to make this wedding great and was prepared to go to any lengths to achieve that goal. The guests had begun whispering among themselves, but he was too preoccupied with finding them to notice. His goal was to locate the rings and enhance the quality of this wedding. He looked all over the ground for any indication of the lost rings. Despite his extreme stress, he was committed to making this wedding flawless. They were located. Eventually, after a stressful few minutes, the rings were located. They had become disoriented in a little opening in the best man's suit pocket. To the great relief of all, they managed to free them. Resuming the ceremony, Jack and Lucy swapped rings while grinning broadly. Everyone laughed as the best man broke the tension with a humorous shout of relief. "God be praised," he cried. "I was afraid I would have to get them a new set of rings." His jest eased the tension, allowing everyone to take pleasure in the remainder of the ceremony. The best man's quip caused the crowd to burst out laughing, as they were happy that the rings had been located. Jack and Lucy exchanged a smile, appreciative that the ritual could go on. Happy that the matter had been settled, the officiant shook his head and laughed. Thanking God that there would be no more mishaps throughout the ceremony, the bride's mother wiped away a tear of happiness. The best man received a back pat from the groom's father, who was pleased with his fast thinking. Heading to the reception area, the bridesmaids exchanged relieved looks, glad that the wedding could go on without any further interruptions. Everyone made their way to the chamber where the wedding reception would be held after the ceremony. The enormous table displayed a variety of dishes, and the area was nicely adorned. The wedding cake was perched on a large pillar near the bride and groom's table, and there was a dancing floor in the center of the space. The guests were overjoyed to discover small wedding mementos left on each table. Everyone was happy with the diverse selection of dishes served during the wonderful catering. Along with a variety of cakes, cupcakes, and other delicacies, the desserts were also very tasty. The guests had a great time celebrating the newlyweds, and the bride and groom were thrilled with how the venue was decorated. The lighting was ideal, with soft lights that produced a romantic ambience. The background music was a terrific approach to get the guests in the mood for dancing because it was carefully picked to fit the overall feel of the event. The guests could enjoy a variety of drinks from the open bar, which was a huge attraction. The bartenders ensured that everyone had a fantastic time by being so kind and accommodating. The guests had a blast celebrating the newlyweds, and the bride and groom were thrilled with the venue's decor. A gorgeously furnished space. Mark was enthralled by the space. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. Luxurious velvet and silk drapes decorated the walls, while brilliant chandeliers hung from the ceiling. The polished marble floor was mirror-like in its sheen. The finest wood was used to make the furniture, and the upholstery was of the greatest caliber. There was an air of grandeur and wealth in the room, and the smell of fresh flowers filled the air. The venue's sheer splendor astounded Mark. He glanced around in hopes of finding Lucy, but she was nowhere to be seen. Additionally, Mark discovered Jack wasn't there when he searched for him. How could they be there? This was going to blow him away. His concern was that the show might not live up to his expectations. Calling Mark to the mic, he was nervous that he wouldn't be able to execute the performance he had prepared. Mark glanced in every direction as he moved around the room. The DJ then abruptly yelled Mark's name. Now was the moment. Oh no. Mark pondered. He couldn't start to feel surprised just yet because Jack and Lucy weren't even present. Mark, what's up? The DJ called once more. Just a second, Mark yelled back, desperation evident. He needed to hesitate for a while. The excitement among the guests was growing. They were excited to see what Mark had prepared after witnessing how skillfully he had conducted the wedding. They began to speculate in whispers among themselves as to what the surprise might be. Mark inhaled deeply and approached the microphone. He revealed that the newlyweds were in for a spectacular surprise. The room was buzzing with excitement, and the visitors were inconsolable. As they attempted to predict what the surprise might be, the guests started to laugh and talk among themselves. While some perceived it as a dancing performance, others saw it as a unique gift. Everyone was curious to learn more. Grinning, Mark motioned for everyone to have a seat. Particularly since Mark had performed such a fantastic job officiating the wedding, the guests were all anticipating his surprise. He said, "But first, I'd like to call on the newlyweds to be present," and he quickly left the room. Fleeing the room, he called for Jack and Lucy. "Lucy? Lucy," he cried out. He heard a faint sound out of the blue. "Mark," somebody shouted back. Lucy was the one. "I'm within this space." As Mark walked into a room, he spotted Lucy and Jack standing close to a mirror. He gave a brief explanation, saying that he was searching for them in preparation for an unexpected performance. Before he starts, he requested them to please hurry and join the reception area. Finding them, Mark was relieved and expressed gratitude for their visit. In the hopes that he wouldn't be too late, he dashed back to the reception area. Although he was anxious, he was eager to perform for the newlyweds. He was committed to giving them a memorable experience. He inhaled deeply and bided his time until they came. He changed into new clothes. They were getting ready for their dramatic entrance. Mark held the door open and said, "You guys have to come to the reception room." "Mark, what's going on? Has anything occurred?" Lucy inquired with concern. "Nope, not at all like that," Mark answered, "but I have a big surprise for you guys." It dawned on the newlyweds that they needed to change into something more suitable for a party for the reception. Usually, the bride dresses more comfortably so that she may move around and dance with her guests. Depending on the subject of the wedding, some couples even have many wardrobe changes for the couple. For the reception, for instance, the couple might dress traditionally, and for the after-party, they might dress more casually. For the reception, the groom might also change into a suit or tuxedo. In addition, the couple has the option of dressing alike for the reception or going with complementary looks. Whichever option the couple decides on, they should make sure their attire is both appropriate for the situation and comfortable. Directing them to the chamber of reception, Mark told Lucy and Jack about his surprise, and their expressions lighted up. This was completely unexpected because they had never looked to him for anything in return. Mark led them back to the reception area in a hurry. Lucy and Jack could still make their dramatic arrival because Mark entered first. As soon as they entered, everyone clapped. Jack and Lucy couldn't wait to see what Mark had in store for them. They were both excited and full of anticipation. Mark had gone above and above to make this particular event unique for them. They both appreciated that he had given it a lot of thought. It was time for the surprise, and everyone were eager to see what Mark had in store for them. It was Mark's turn to finally take the mic. With a large spotlight shining on him, he stood in the middle of the dance floor. Gazing out, he saw that Jack and Lucy were among the people who were excitedly anticipating his surprise. He had planned a little speech first, though. He had been working on it for days, reworking it until he was satisfied. He had also spent hours looking for the ideal song to go with his speech since he wanted to make sure he showed his appreciation for being invited to their special day. In order to sing it to them, he had even taken the time to learn the words. He was going to make sure they would remember this surprise. He knew that his friends would be touched by his sincere remarks and the song he had selected when he was done. He was all set to begin his surprise. Kind words. With a calm voice, he started to talk and spilled his heart out in his words. He thanked Lucy and Jack for their friendship, their steadfast support, and their love for him over the years. Mark could see tears in Lucy and Jack's eyes as he talked, and his words were real. Jack was so moved by Mark's speech that he couldn't help but give him a hug, and Lucy was so overcome that she had to take a few moments to gather herself. Even the visitors were moved to tears. Everyone in the room was in awe at Mark's sincere remarks, and there was a real sense of passion. Lucy and Jack were filled with pride for their pal and realized that this would be a moment they would always remember. He started to sing, and everyone were happy to have witnessed such a lovely demonstration of camaraderie and love. He felt warmth in his heart as he saw the happiness and gratitude in their faces. After concluding his remarks, Mark inhaled deeply and, much to everyone's amazement, started to sing. This aspect of Mark stunned everyone, they never saw it coming. His tone was lovely and his voice was crystal clear. Having never heard him sing before, Lucy was particularly taken aback. She was amazed by his skill and found it hard to believe he had been keeping it a secret from them for so long. Mark's performance astounded Jack and Lucy, who had no idea he was such a talented singer. Mark's singing was praised and appreciated by everyone in the room. His performance impacted Lucy so much that tears began to spring up in her eyes. She couldn't believe he had kept this from them for so long and was so proud of him. A lovely voice. His words, which captured the core of their connection and love shared, were a reflection of his sentiments for Lucy and Jack, and his voice was deep and soulful. The guests were spellbound by Mark's performance as he sang. Many were brought to tears, and some even started humming gently in time with the music. It felt like he had been performing for years because of his strong presence. His stage presence was unquestionable, and he had a strong command of the audience. His body language and facial expressions were so effortless and natural that it seemed as though he was destined to be a performer. His performance was so engaging that it was difficult to look away from him. He had a way of connecting with the audience. His enthusiasm for music was evident, and his brilliance was indisputable. It was an absolutely amazing experience, and he was able to make the room come to life with his performance. A minute of silence. After Mark concluded his performance, there was a brief pause before raucous cheers broke out. The visitors were clapping and cheering after Mark's moving performance. Feeling deeply moved, Lucy and Jack hurried over to hug Mark and express their gratitude for the most exquisite surprise they had ever imagined. Though he was happy that everyone had loved his performance, Mark was more worried about Lucy's and Jack's responses. It gave him relief to see that they were both moved and grateful for what he had done. The guests wanted to hear more from Mark, so he accommodated them with a couple more songs when the initial round of applause subsided. Celebrating the remainder of the night, Mark was happy that his surprise had been well received and that he had been able to add even more great memories to Lucy and Jack's special day. The remainder of the evening was spent in delight and celebration. Mark was ecstatic that his surprise had been a huge success and felt content and happy. He smiled and danced with his pals, enjoying the occasion and feeling appreciative of the friendship he had with Lucy and Jack because he no longer felt criticized. He was at last able to enjoy himself because of his singing, which had won him some admirers right away. He was appreciative of the chance to take part in the celebration and felt accepted and welcomed by the attendees. In addition to feeling like he belonged, he was able to develop new acquaintances and contacts. He felt proud and accomplished that he could share his passions and talents with those around him. Putting Mark aside, he was able to be himself and was welcomed and liked for it. Lucy and Jack grabbed Mark aside as the evening drew to an end to once again express their sincere gratitude. They expressed their gratitude to him for his kind words and lovely song, and they informed him how his surprise had added an extra special touch to their wedding day. Mark gave his pals strong hugs while grinning. Lucy expressed her pride in having him officiate their wedding and never questioned his ability to do so. Lucy also thanked Mark for being present to share this important day with them and for making it so unforgettable. They assured him that they would always remember his generosity and kindness. Their remarks moved Mark, who thanked them for letting him share in their wonderful day. At the conclusion, he wished them a lifetime of love and happiness. A fulfilling existence requires companionship and love. They provide us a feeling of security and belonging and can support us through trying times. They can also make us happy and joyful and support our personal development. Strong interpersonal bonds and a robust support system can be formed via love and friendship. Love and friendship can teach us how to be vulnerable and trustworthy with others, as well as how to grow in empathy and understanding. Finally, friendship and love can make the world more harmonious and peaceful by fostering compassion and understanding for others. Mark experienced a profound sense of contentment as he and his partner gazed up at the night sky's glittering stars. He came to understand that, on occasion, the most heartfelt surprises originate from the heart and that, near the end of life, showing our loved ones how much we care can result in some of the most treasured moments.